He was known by many names: Nguyen Sinh Kung, Nguyen Tt Than, and finally H. Kai Min, meaning he who enlightens. To some, he was a nationalist hero, the father of modern Vietnam. To others, a ruthless communist dictator. But who was the man behind the myth? The man who would lead a small nation in a decades-long struggle against the world's greatest superpowers? His story is one of relentless determination, ideological conviction, and a journey that spanned continents and defined the course of the 20th century. Born in 1890 in a village in central Vietnam, then part of French Indochina, Ho Chi Minh grew up under the shadow of colonial rule. His father, a scholar and civil servant, was dismissed for refusing to learn French, instilling in his son a deep-seated sense of anti-colonial resentment. From an early age, Ho witnessed the injustices and economic exploitation his people faced. This wasn't a distant political concept. It was the reality of his daily life, fueling a fire that would never be extinguished. In 1911, at the age of 21, he did something remarkable. With little money and no connections, he boarded a French steamship, working as a kitchen helper. This wasn't just a trip. It was a mission. He wanted to see the world, to understand the West, and most importantly, to find a way to free his homeland. For the next 3 decades, he would be a man in constant motion, a global wanderer. He lived in the United States, working in Boston and Harlem. He settled in London, working as a pastry chef under the legendary Auguste Escoffier. He then moved to Paris, the very heart of the empire that controlled his country. Paris was a turning point. He immersed himself in the city's vibrant political scene. Embracing socialist ideas and co-founding the French Communist Party, it was here he adopted the name Nguyen O, or Nguyen the Patriot. He tried to petition the world leaders at the Versailles Peace Conference in 1919, advocating for Vietnamese rights and self-determination, inspired by American President Woodrow Wilson's ideals. But he was ignored. The great powers were not interested in the freedom of a small Asian colony. This bitter rejection pushed him further towards radicalism. If Western democracy wouldn't help, perhaps something else would. He found his answer in the writings of Vladimir Lenin. Lenin's anti-imperialist stance resonated deeply with Ho's own struggle. He saw communism not just as an economic theory, but as a practical blueprint for national liberation. This was the key. He traveled to Moscow in the 1920s, trained as a Comintern agent, and became a committed revolutionary. For years, he operated in the shadows, organizing expatriate Vietnamese revolutionaries from bases in China and Thailand, always one step ahead of the French secret police. He was a master of disguise, a phantom moving across borders, building a network loyal to one single cause, a free Vietnam. When World War II erupted and Japan invaded Indochina, Ho saw his opportunity. In 1941, after 30 years abroad, he secretly returned to Vietnam. Deep in the northern mountains, he founded the Viet Minh, the League for the Independence of Vietnam. This was a broad nationalist front uniting communists and non-communists under a single banner of patriotism. They waged a guerrilla war against both the Japanese and the French, receiving support and training from the American OSS, the precursor to the CIA, who saw them as a useful ally against Japan. Then, in August 1945, a power vacuum emerged. Japan surrendered, and the French had not yet returned in force. Ho Chi Minh seized the moment. In what became known as the August Revolution, the Viet Minh took control of Hanoi on September 2nd, 1945. In Ba Hun Square, Ho Chi Minh declared the independence of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. His speech famously quoted the American Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. He was making a direct appeal to the West, hoping for recognition and support. But his appeal fell on deaf ears. The French, determined to reclaim their colony, returned, and war broke out. This was the First Indochina War, an 8-year-long brutal conflict. The Viet Minh, though outgunned, used their knowledge of the terrain and unwavering morale to wage a brilliant guerrilla campaign. The decisive moment came in 1954 at Dien Bien Phu. Viet Minh forces, under the command of General Vien Nguyen Giap, achieved a stunning victory, surrounding and defeating a modern, well-supplied French army. It was a victory that sent shockwaves around the world, proving that a colonized people could defeat their colonial masters on the battlefield. The Geneva Accords of 1954 ended the war, but they split Vietnam in two at the 17th parallel. A communist north, led by Ho Chi Minh, and a non-communist south, soon to be backed by the United States. The division was meant to be temporary, with nationwide elections scheduled for 1956 to reunify the country. But the elections never happened. The U.S. and the Southern regime feared a landslide victory for Ho Chi Minh, who is revered as a national hero by many in both the North and the South. And so the stage was set for an even bloodier conflict, the Second Indochina War, known in the West as the Vietnam War. Ho Chi Minh, now in his 60s and 70s, remained the spiritual and political leader of the North. While his direct control over military strategy lessened, his vision of a unified Vietnam, free of foreign intervention, was the unwavering goal. He inspired his people to endure unimaginable hardship and loss, famously stating, "You can kill 10 of my men for every one I kill of yours. But even at those odds, you will lose and I will win." This was the core of his strategy, attrition and willpower. He understood that this was not just a military conflict, but a political one. The goal was to make the war so costly and so prolonged that the American public would eventually turn against it. For over a decade, North Vietnam, a small agrarian nation, withstood the most intense bombing campaign in human history, all while supporting a guerrilla insurgency, the Viet Cong, in the south. Behind the public image of Uncle Ho, the gentle, sandal-wearing patriot, was a complex and often ruthless leader. To consolidate power in the 1950s, his government launched a brutal land reform campaign. Thousands of landowners and so-called class enemies were executed or imprisoned in a period of ideological terror. Freedom of speech, political opposition, these were non-existent in the North. His regime was a single-party totalitarian state. For Ho, the ultimate goal of national unification justified any means necessary. There was no room for dissent in a nation at total war. Ho Chi Minh would not live to see his dream fully realized. He passed away on September 2nd, 1969, at the age of 79, nearly 6 years before the fall of Saigon. His death was kept secret for a day to avoid dampening the nation's spirit on its National Day. Despite his wishes to be cremated, his body was embalmed and placed in a grand mausoleum in Hanoi, where he remains a powerful symbol of the state. In 1975, when North Vietnamese tanks smashed through the gates of the presidential palace in Saigon, the war was finally over. The city was renamed Ho Chi Minh City in his honor. His life's work was complete. So, how do we remember Ho Chi Minh? As a freedom fighter who dedicated his entire existence to his nation's independence. Or a dogmatic ideologue who created a repressive state responsible for immense suffering. The truth, as it often is complicated and uncomfortable. He was a product of his time and era of colonialism, revolution, and brutal ideological conflict. He was both a nationalist patriot and a committed communist, a man who could quote American ideals of liberty while enforcing totalitarian rule. His legacy is etched into the very soul of Vietnam and remains a testament to the powerful and often contradictory forces that shaped our modern world. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into history interesting, please subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into the figures who changed our world.